Black Politics Today, an eye for what's at stake in global politics and your source for the social, economic, and political impact of public policy on the African American community. Your host, Kelly Michael Williams, is a political strategy veteran with an undefeated campaign record and the political experience that spans nearly 3 decades, from Mayor Willie Brown in California to President Barack Obama in our nation's capital. So get ready for a fresh and honest approach on the politics that affect you and your family the most. Now, your host, Kelly Michael Williams.
We will cry glory. We will cry glory. Hopefully that one day, November 3rd, we will cry glory. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Kelly Michael Williams. I want to thank you for joining us again for another broadcast of What's at Stake right here on Black Politics Today and the It's About Us virtual town hall meeting. I am grateful to you for joining us again tonight. I'm grateful for just everyone that participates and supports Black Politics Today. And as we do with each and every broadcast, I always pause and thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, just for the idea of us being able to host this broadcast, be able to reach across the country and touch lives and in various ways, just to deal with the social, the economic, and the political impact on our community. And as we've talked about over this last month with the various town halls that we've hosted, from the social town hall to the economic town hall to now our political town halls that we're going to be dealing with tonight and again in 2 weeks and the day before election. It is the idea and understanding that it is too important for us to sit at home and not participate in this electoral process. We didn't do anything in 2016. Quite honestly, we didn't do anything in 2010. We didn't do anything in 2012. We wait every 4 years to try to do something. But then in 2016, we did nothing. And now this country, this nation, and our community as African Americans are suffering from that lack of participation, that lack of involvement, that lack of understanding and realization that every election is important and every election has consequences and every election will have an impact socially, economically, and politically. And it's just crazy to me that we let someone bamboozle us into believing that they were going to be able to do something that we could see on paper they weren't able to do for themselves. So when they asked the question, what the hell do we have to lose? A whole hell of a lot. Our lives, in fact, our jobs, our houses, our education, our health, our savings, our children, our parents, our grandparents. There's a whole hell of a lot for us to lose. And more importantly, why we sit there and complain about it, we need to do something about it. I mean, we need to make sure we act. We need to make sure we do something. We need to make sure that we participate in every election from this day forward. If 2016 does not give us a reality check of how important and how powerful voting is and every election is, then literally you need to take your behind and just go sit in a corner, because I really don't care what the hell happens to you. If you don't realize where we are today, where we are right now, can you imagine, can you actually understand and picture the United States of America being a China, an Iran, a Russia, a Turkey, a Bahrain, any of those countries that have dictators who have changed their constitutions so that they can be in power for the next 20 to 30 years or until they die? That's what's in the process of happening. And people say, oh, that's never going to happen. We will never let that happen. Yeah, they will. Because some people in this country, they are only concerned about power. And let's be real clear. Republicans are only concerned about power. And since the majority of Republicans are white men, that's who's concerned about power. And since the majority of Republicans who are white men who will placate and say they really care about black men, they will find a Kanye West and turn his ass upside down and have him getting put on ballots where he already knows he's just being used, but he's okay with that. Then people will say, well, Democrats use black folks all the time. But you know what? Even in that, at least we get jobs out of it. We get paid. We get, a few other things out of that, right? We get advancement because we do get some policies out of it. Tell me what the hell Kanye is going to get out of it. Tell me what the black people who are voting for Donald Trump are going to get out of it. Because the majority of them aren't in the tax bracket that he's in. The majority of them aren't getting jobs because we've lost 30 million of those. The majority of them aren't going to be able to have that health care because he's about to get rid of that. The majority of them, their small businesses have just closed because more than half of those have happened. So what the hell are they getting out of it? Except running around saying he's not a racist. So if he's not, then either you're stupid as hell or you don't really understand how racism and what he's doing really works because you think that you're being accepted. Ask OJ, was he accepted? Ask Michael Jackson, was he accepted? Ask everyone who tried to go to the other side and then all of a sudden the shit hit the fan and they had to come back. So recognizing that you got that, and then you have the idea that this dude in a public forum says, oh yeah, what do you want me to say? Who do you want me to denounce? Who is it? What is it? Think about this. Since 1980, domestic terrorism in this country has increased and become more and more violent and brazen as these groups have grown. And the numbers are astounding because the very people who are in charge of trying to protect us, the American people, our country and our nation, are the very people who are supporting these white supremacist groups and allowing them to do what the hell they want to do. In recent years since Oklahoma City bombing, you had Timothy McVeigh and his band of white supremacists. Now, Timothy McVeigh was an Army veteran, was in the service, sworn to uphold the Constitution, protect and serve. And then he went and got in line with this group and then wanted to overthrow the government. And this dude just like Dylann Roof, sought to start race riots. Now, Timothy just wanted to overturn the government. He was like, the government's bad, I want to overturn them. Dylann Roof, on the other hand, wanted to start a race riot. So he goes into a church and kills 9 people in that church. I mean, let's think about that. His whole purpose was to start a race riot. So he kills 9 people to do it. That doesn't work. Then you have the folks in Florida and in Texas, that shooting. And then you come up with Sandy Hook and the Newtown shootings, where these individuals use our children, our department stores, our nightclubs, and our places of worship as target practice. That's what they did. And then you have Donald Trump during a national debate stand up and say, oh, what group do you want me to denounce? Who is this? What do you want me to say? Are you kidding me? Think about this. Since President Obama became president, you had an increase in white supremacist group 100-fold. 100-fold. And now, today is Monday, so Thursday or Friday, you had a white supremacist group get 13 men get arrested for the plot that they had to kidnap and kill the governor of Michigan. I mean, this mess is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And so Trump tells the title of our show tonight, because I'm not going to mention their names, to stand by. Like, stand by, wait, we're going to give you some instructions, because come election day, I need you to be out there on the force. I need you to be out there and ready to, intimidate, to poll watch, to, come in your military gear and your long rifles and stand by there and look at people and check their IDs and everything else, which they have no authority to do. But because everyone doesn't know their rights, because everyone in the southern states of Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, or even in Maryland or Virginia, even in some of maybe Philadelphia or Pennsylvania or places like that, don't know their rights, these people will be intimidating to them, and they may turn and walk away. Or they may, if they come up to them and say, show us your ID, they may think that they have to do that. And so we have to be vigilant. We have to be understanding. We have to recognize that these people are not going to win. They're not going to intimidate us. They're not going to get what they want. And in fact, we're going to send the word, and the word must go out that this time around, we vote. And we're not standing for this BS any longer. And if you walk up on me, I want you to. I wish we had the problem in DC, because I want you to walk up to me, ask me something, show me your rifle, whatever else, and see what you get up your behind. Because quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it because the people who don't know are being victimized, and the people who do know aren't doing enough about it. And these test tube babies have just gotten me to the point where clearly this can be a show on my own. And those of you who know, when I do my own show, my own monologue, it will be laced with adjectives to explain and say exactly what I think about these test tube babies. And that's the best way I can say it. We got 21 days before election. In Black America, we have to fight through the noise. We have to fight through the nonsense. We have to fight through the bullshiggity. We have to do exactly what Michelle Obama told us to do. We have to plan to vote, get our walking shoes, get a bag lunch, get you some water, get you a runner, call Uber Eats, whatever the heck you got to do, get you a chair, carry it with you. But whatever we have to do, we have to make sure that we show up and we show up. Because in 2016, many of you sat back and you were asked, what the hell did you have to lose? And you figure, hey, you ain't got nothing to lose. Democrats did this. Republicans can't be so bad. Now look what we got going now. Look what we have coming. Look what is here. An individual who has an attorney general who allows him to violate the Constitution in every way, a Senate and a Congress that allows him to do whatever you want him to do, anytime and every time, and therefore doesn't do anything to stop it. Doesn't do anything to stop it. So tonight, I have with me tonight, again, a good friend of mine, Mr. Opportunity Zone, as I call him, former Capitol Hill Chief of Staff and founder of the Financial Services Innovative Coalition, Mr. Kevin Kimball. And also joining us a little later on is going to be the first African-American ever elected to the Durham County Sheriffs in its 140-year history. And if you know anything about Durham or North Carolina, you know that the 8 largest counties in Durham have all been, are now headed by African-Americans, men and women, first time elected to the sheriff, and now they're controlling those counties. And I'm looking forward to those counties turning out blue and making sure that they defeat Tom Tillis out there in North Carolina, as well as Donald Trump out there in North Carolina. We can have another North Carolina like we did in 2008 and 2012 for Barack Obama. And hopefully that can come out there. So I want to look forward to having a conversation with Sheriff Clarence Burkhead joining us as well. So Kevin, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you joining me tonight. Sorry for that long-winded introduction, but I had to get some things off my chest because it's one of those.
Hey, when you have a show, you get to do all that. That's the beauty of it. I was listening. I was like, this is like more entertaining than being a participant. I was get on with it. So I wish I had done. If I know we were going to go in this direction, I would have actually sent your producer a video. He can find it on YouTube while we're talking. With Lee Atwater talking about the Southern strategy. It's about a minute and a half long video, but it's the perfect thing to show in the interim because it says everything you say, but it's from Lee Atwater telling the strategy they use to use racism against white people. Right. I mean, they use white people's own racism against them to get them to vote against their interests.
Exactly. So if you can find it, Brian, and make it work, you can do that, and we'll show a piece of it, a clip of it. Get one that works for us. But what are you hearing on the ground, Kevin? What does Black America do? I mean, we think about it in 2016, they sat home, and I say they because surely I didn't, but they sat home. So does Black America and those who sat home last time around, is the magnitude, do they understand the magnitude of what has happened because they sat at home 4 years ago? Do they recognize that in 16 they sat home and literally did nothing? 11,000 votes, literally 11,000 votes. That's less than one vote per precinct. And right. Michigan, do they understand that mm-hmm. the magnitude of what that entailed, as well as what they didn't do in 2018? We showed out a little bit better in 18, but we still gave up the Senate and we didn't do what we need to do for the Senate. Do they now understand? Are you hearing on the ground that they understand the magnitude of what 2020 means?
So I think people are feeling this level of intensity and insecurity, I think, that's different than before. But there's a lot of noise. So I think turnout's going to be higher this time. I mean, turnout's already breaking records in a lot of places. I think turnout's going to be higher, even among African Americans. But the compelling, Trump didn't show up by mistake. He definitely tapped into something, and even Black people are voting with their apathy. I mean, the quality of your life before Trump versus the quality of your life after Trump is mixed. I mean, police brutality has been a problem for a long time. Now we got video, so people see it more clearly. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot going on. I think getting people to figure out where they fit in. I mean, Black people are less than 1%. We've not talked about this from an economic standpoint. They're less than 1% of so many things that they almost feel disconnected from this process. So it's up to people like you to make them connected. And I think there's there are people who vote because it's their duty, but it gets harder and harder to figure out, where am I going to get? Which is why we talk about advocacy. I think that's another thing. After the election, your next job is to make sure people know they've got to go and advocate, because that's the only way you're going to get people truly engaged. Right. Trump is bad news all around. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He needs to go. It's good for the country, good for the world for him not to be president. But I think if you asked if you went down into like a community in North Carolina or Richmond and asked the question, the answer gets complicated. I don't think it's quite as simple as just Trump has been evil to us, because hell, America's been evil to us for 400 years. It's not,
right, exactly.
so it's not it's not just, and I think it's a misconception, or it's not fair to say that, one person is going to fix our problems. I mean, we need the right person in office to want us to fix our problems, but we're going to have to work hard on that.
To be able to have the access to be able to do so and be able to hold them accountable to do so. Yeah. See, there is no accountability for Trump because we didn't elect Trump, so we can't hold him accountable for us or to us. Yeah. Whereas we could do that with the Biden and Harris. Right? He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
Right? Yeah, he doesn't. So the idea that we can be able to do that and then change some policies and start working on breaking down the systemic structural racism that we have to deal with. And I think either I may have talked about it this week or last week, but I was talking to someone about just that, being able to get in place. And I think it may have been our last town hall when I was talking to Sharon, Professor Kyle, and I said, do we need to get into the position so that we can change, if in positions of authority, so we can change the policies of it. Mm-hmm. And some were saying, well, no, just having Black folks in a position isn't going to do it. But wouldn't having Black folks in the position at least give us some ability to work with them in some fashion? Because we all know that sometimes you get a brother or sister in a position that they ain't never had before, and they get brand new on you, and they act like the whole agency or the whole company belongs to them. And then they don't want to do anything to advocate and help you advance or anything else because they just got there and they don't want to move no ways, right? But the point of us getting there, like we understand, God blessed you and me and anyone else. He didn't bless us and favor us for ourselves. He blessed and favored us so that we can bless and favor somebody else, right? So that we can pay it forward as we will. Will it matter if we actually get Kamala Harris in as VP? Will it matter to help us change policy if we get a Joe Biden in?
If we do what we're supposed to do as individual citizens and stay on them, I mean, I think they are people who would be responsive to the pressure if the pressure is applied. But always remember the thing about that. One of the first things guaranteed in the Constitution is the right to petition your government. Right, that's in Article 1 of the Constitution. Right. The right to petition the government is there. So it's if we're not advocating for ourselves, someone else is going to be advocating for their stuff, and the person who gets all the oil. Right. So it's very important that we get focused on making sure our voices are always heard, that we don't take a day off after the election and breathe a sigh of relief, but that we immediately start asking for the things that we want, whether it's reparations, whether it's affirmative action, whatever it is we decide that we need. The Voting Rights Act hasn't been renewed. So there's a lot of things that we need to, CRA got revised in a way that hurts communities. So there's lots of things that we have to start right away asking for, and we have to keep asking for it and holding people accountable.
And the idea of doing that, because you're talking about advocacy, and it's one of those areas that we need to deal with, because when you look at these racist, white supremacist groups, the reality of it is that in some ways they're advocating. In some ways they're out there letting Trump and the Republican Party know, hey, you guys better toe the white line, because if you don't, we're not going to vote. Yep. And because we make up a lot of the rural North Carolina, the rural Ohio, the rural Wisconsin, the rural Pennsylvania, the rural Georgia, right? The rural New Jersey, all these places that become like battleground states. Yep. If you don't support us, right? What's the kid's name? The 17-year-old from Wisconsin, or actually from Indiana. Yeah. And you got the dude in the White House. He says, "Oh, well, he was defending himself. He was defending himself." Yeah. I mean, they're actually advocating, but I'm not hearing Black folks advocate for what it is we need, outside of saying our lives matter, but we're not talking about it in a way that I think translates into public policy economic policy and political policy.
Yeah, I think we need to, especially on the police issue. I think one of the first things we've got to do is make sure we get people elected to city council who support what we need to have done with police reforms. I think and then we hold them accountable.
Right.
And then we have to push them to change those union contracts, because the union contracts allow a lot of power to the police to be defended in cases when they shouldn't be defended. I mean, so it all starts with us holding people accountable and not accepting a bad result. Sometimes you get a bad result and you accept, but if you don't accept a bad result, say that I don't care if the guy was hallucinating, I don't care if he really feared for his life, the guy was unarmed, he shouldn't be on the police force. Maybe he doesn't go to jail, but we're not going to pay his salary. That's just got to be a bottom line thing that we no longer accept.
Right? Exactly.
And anybody who does that any elected official who supports that or condones that is somebody who we will not support and will work very hard to get out of office. And that's just got to be some of those things have to be bottom line, that never again can an unarmed person be shot by the cops. If you're that bad of a police officer, then bye. I mean, we don't need it. That's just got to be a standard rule. And the union does. If the union won't do it, then we'll let the union contract expire and we'll hire new police separate. I mean, but that's just can't be. There's something that we have to stand firm on. That no excuse for bad policing. I don't care. If you have a gun and a badge, you have to be able to tell the difference between a gun and a cell phone box. And if you can't, then you don't get to get paid.
Right.
And I think we have
exactly. Exactly.
You're gonna have to clarify on later, and you can ask that question. I mean, because that's just got to be. It's just got to be a blanket rule. There are a lot of hard jobs in this world, and you don't get to do them badly.
Right. I mean, look, I used to be a cop.
Uh-huh.
My dad was a cop. My brother was a cop.
I
never mistaked a cell phone or anything else like that, a pencil, a brick. I never mistake any of that for a gun.
Halloween toy gun.
Right. Yeah. It was like clear as day when you looking, because trust me, when a gun is pointed at you,
you know it.
Right? I've had one pointed at me. You know it. You can tell. You see it. It's clear. Yeah. And it's not a flashpoint. Right. So think about it. I mean, let me go here, because with the idea of these white supremacist groups getting as much attention as they have, and the fact that this dude said absolutely nothing that would essentially tell them to stand down, if you will. He told them, no, step back and stand by.
Right.
3 years ago, they did a poll, and it showed that the majority of the folks who took this poll, Americans polled about violence to meet the political party's objective. So the question was, do you think you need to use violence to meet your party's objective? Yeah. The majority of the people said no. I mean, roughly 10% said something other than never. Right. So 90% of the people said never. Okay. Right. They took that poll again recently. That's double. Where people now are saying, oh yeah, we need to use violence. Yeah. Oh yes, let's use violence. Yeah. Right. So you got nearly half of the people polled saying now we need to use violence to be able to get our agenda across. And lo and behold, you have these people trying to kidnap. I mean, let's really think about that. They're trying to kidnap and then eventually execute the governor for what was said to have been, and the reason they gave was because they didn't like the coronavirus mandate that she put on the citizens. Yeah. Kevin, are we serious right here? So let's think about that for a minute and take it from this too. In the 60s, when the Black Panthers in my home state of California walked into City Hall in San Francisco, and how they automatically changed the gun laws so that Black folks couldn't have guns to walk into any Capitol building or City Hall. But you had these same white supremacist groups walking into the Michigan state Capitol building, to the point where they had to shut down the session. They stopped the electives, session, the associate, not elective session, but the legislative session, legislative session before the end of the session, because these fools were walking around camping out in front of the governor's office with their long rifles. My question is, why in the hell wasn't the state police or whoever, the Capitol Police, escorting their asses out? But why did they stand there?
A lot of those guys are sympathetic. First of all, a lot of those guys are sympathetic to those guys. That's one. So that's a big one. Secondly, it's legal, so they're probably avoiding the conflict. They've probably been told to stand down. I think, but mostly they probably agree. A lot of those guys, they're probably closet members of those organizations. If you want to be honest, them
like back in the day, the Ku Klux Klan were the sheriffs, were the police officer, and everything else.
Yeah, I don't think much has changed in that respect. There's a great documentary, and I don't want to get too wonky about it, but there's a great documentary about Ulysses S. Grant. It was on the History Channel a couple months ago. But when you watch it, so it goes from his time through the Civil War to his presidency, and all the battles. We're still fighting the Civil War. I mean, if you really want to take an academic approach to this, the Civil War ended with a ceasefire, not a surrender. It was a ceasefire, right? Never a peace. Right. And Black people basically ended up being the bounty for that ceasefire. Basically, the North eventually allowed the South to do what they wanted to the Black people, and that's how they kind of finally got a more lasting peace. If they had let the South secede, then of course there would have been civil wars across that border over years about slavery and resource. It would just been, so basically we've always been the sort of the bounty that was paid in order to keep the union together. And so there's a lot of people, they've been trying to figure out a way to rehash this conversation for a long time. And there's just it's incumbent upon us to, there are a lot of people don't want violence. I mean, America's been a very comfortable place for a very long time. So people really don't want, even white people don't want violence. There's a group of malcontents who really want that fight. I mean, there's just,
yeah, they actually believe that they are going to be able to win that fight and be able to take it back or bring America back to its white supremacist level, and that white people are going to be like the majority population, the majority party. Right. And the reality is hitting their ass. That's not going to happen. Right. Because the truth of the matter is, if you really take the gangs and the folks who are shooting and looting and killing everything else, if they don't care about themselves, what the heck you think they're gonna do to your behind? Especially if you try to come after them.
You definitely you don't want to be in a society where people with AK-47s actually run the country. That's not a good place to be. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Anthony says he has a video. You want to run that video? I want to play that video if you wouldn't mind.
If you want to join the conversation, give us a call at 516-590-0143. That's 516-590-0143. You said you had the video clip?
Anthony says you got to pull that.
Oh, Anthony has it up? Okay.
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician or a political scientist, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this. All right, I won't do it. You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts you, it backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And subconsciously, maybe that is part of it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut taxes, we want to cut this, and we want is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than nigger, you know. So any way you look at it, race is coming on the back burner.
Clear.
So I love that video.
Clear.
You don't get much, anyone who wants to tell you that Republicans aren't racist, you just play that video for them, and their whole basis of their whole existence is
Right.
racism, right? You know,
Right. It's always been that way. I mean, George H.W. Bush did it. W. Bush
Yeah.
did it. Reagan did it. Nixon did it. They've
Yep.
all done it to basically make sure that they got white folks out there who would even be on the Democratic side of things,
Yeah.
but saying, "Oh, no, we can't do that because those blacks, those niggers, yes, we can't do that," and they come out there and do that. I mean, it's powerful, and anyone who hasn't seen 13th, watch that documentary as well. It's key and it's huge. Let me go here with this too, because as I think about it, when you look at the debate, and you think about what's going on in terms of the polling, we got the polling in Ohio, Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and all these states where they're telling us things are going to be, things are going to be good, and everything's going to, it looks good. It looks good. We're up by, 10 points here and 8 points there and everything else. Hillary was in the same place, but we still got 21 days left.
Right.
Do you think there is enough disgusted Republicans and independents that in those battleground states, we can actually get them to hold the line and go ahead and vote this man out? Or are they going to revert back like the suburban white women did in 2016, revert back to their husbands and their comfort zone of suburbia and say, oh no, we can't have a white woman as president, and we're white women and we don't want to support our own?
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that enough of them hold the line because they don't, the good thing is you don't need a wholesale flop, but you don't need, 58% of white women to vote for you. If you get to 49%, with enough other voters, you can win.
Really 35% if you can get
that.
That'll do it, because his margin of error, his margin of victory, I think last time was somewhere around 30%. Over Hillary. So he had 56, she had 39 or something like that. So if you can get 35% of the white suburban women vote, and only about 15 or 20% of that white uneducated college white dude percent, you can do it. But is it there?
And we're going to find out. I'm hopeful. I think the uneducated white men are tough. I don't think we get there with them. I think that there's a lot more socialization into that segment that I don't think Biden's going to be able to break through with that level. I think white women, he can get there. I do believe that. And then with black turnout being what it is, I think it will be an Hispanic turnout.
But let's think about that, Kevin. We're talking about, and it's a real irony, if you will. Donald Trump is dumb as hell. So the people who gravitate to him the best is the dumb as hell white folks who are uneducated. I mean, and they actually classify them as that, and they're willing to accept that. We're white undereducated men, and we're voting for Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole concept is so amazing to me that I'm sitting here every time I see it, and they say, "Oh my God, the white uneducated men, he's losing some of the hold on them, and some of the people have this, come down off that." It's like, really?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's the Lee Atwater. I mean, it's the racism. As one of my mentors said, for most white people, the conversation is, I don't care what you do to us as long as you don't help them. And when you lay that over that's really, it's not about their aspiration. So since we're being, this is your show and where you start, I'm going to go ahead and ride this out for a second.
Go ahead.
If you think about it this way,
it's crazy.
You think white people sow their children's futures down the river to support their racism, right? If you think about it, they gave up college funding, so now their kids have to borrow money to go to college. They gave up everything just so they wouldn't have to share with black people. So if you really, they've basically shot themselves in the foot and the leg and the arm just to be able to support their racism.
Crazy. Yeah. That's ridiculous. And that's what they continue to do. I mean, the irony of this whole thing is I get so sick and tired of hearing these folks talk about if the other side gets in, or if that Kamala Harris gets in, oh my gosh, she is so mean and angry that I don't know what they're going to do. Now, they said that about Obama, and he saved their asses because had he let the auto industry fall, had he not bailed out Wall Street, which we shouldn't have done, but had he not, we would have gone into a recession and they would have lost everything. The rich folks would have lost everything, and the poor folks they really would have been committing suicide because they would have lost everything, and the rich folks too. We would be in terrible shape. 20 million jobs later, they're still talking about, oh my God, he's a socialist and he's going to take our guns and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. Yeah. But yet at no point has that ever happened. But yet they still hold on to that. Well, and they're 80 and 90 years old holding on to that. And then the 40 and 50 uneducated hold on to that. And it's like, okay, at what point?
They're not holding on. That's the thing, Kelly. They're not holding on to. I mean, they're using it as an excuse, like Lee Atwater said.
Right.
Not, I mean, there's no rational basis for these people to do what they're doing, except for that it's just straight up racism. I mean, there's no, Lee Atwater. That's why I listen to the Lee Atwater thing. Sometimes twice a week, I remind myself that I can't get caught up in the trying to understand them, because the answer is really simple. Like, they have to make up a reason. They have to make up a reason that does not nigger. So they have to come up with a reason that's not that, but it makes no sense.
Exactly. And to come to that, it's like, where are we? What's going on? What's happening? I don't understand it. Brian, play. I'm gonna take a quick break. Brian, go ahead and play that video. And when he comes back, we're gonna go into where do we go from here? Because clearly, with this Supreme Court justice and this Trump's platinum plan that he put out that no one's heard of, no one knows anything about. I'm going to touch on that with you real quick. Okay, cool. Go ahead, Brian.
Is this how you see us? Because that's not who we are. In reality, we are volunteers. We are entrepreneurs and creatives. We are parents. We're people who feel, who face struggles, who overcome. We're people who use our influence to change our communities. We are what's trending. So this coming season, let's let them know what else we do.
That's the Black Politics Today ad that we're going to be pushing out across social media, YouTube, Facebook.
It's a good ad. I like it.
Thank you very much. Certainly go to Black Politics Today on YouTube, get that, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And please push that out across the country to your followers, to everyone that you got logged in, so that they know to get out there and vote. One of the things I wanted to hit you up on was a lot of folks, especially like myself, but a lot of Black folks really wanted Kamala in the debate to really just pimp slap Mike Pence. But I think she was under wraps, because I think the whole idea of the angry Black woman and all this other stuff, they kind of put her under wraps. And she let him interrupt her a lot more than I would have liked it to be, because as a Black woman, I mean, being a Black man, we know Black women, you keep interrupting them enough times, it's going to be like, yeah, yeah, interrupt me one more time, right?
Right.
And it'd be like, interrupt me one more time, okay? and that partition glass and the coronavirus is the only thing keeping her from knocking that mess out of his behind. But do you think that she did enough to calm the concerns of the progressives and the independents, but also left enough so that folks would say, I can go out here and support this ticket?
I think she, given all the craziness is going on right now, I think she did about as good of a job as you could have done without taking a lot of risk. I mean, she, sometimes it's a risk reward kind of thing. If she could have tried to throw a couple Hail Marys and maybe they worked and they fell flat. So I think without having she didn't have any bad moments. So I think that overall it was a good time. I can't see her. They didn't need to be desperate. She didn't need to like score a knockdown or a knockout. So I think she played the game about as well as she could.
I just wanted her to just slap the mess out of him one
I
time.
know you did.
Because when he came at her, especially when he said, "Well, we're standing with the American people," my line would come back, "No, you're not standing with them because you let 210,000 of them die.
Mhm.
No, you're not standing with them because you let 30 million of them lose their jobs.
Yeah.
No, you're not standing with them because you just nominated a heifer that's going to take away the Affordable Care Act. No, you're not standing with them. Okay, you're standing with Donald Trump. You're his little puppy. You're his little sheep." But I know she couldn't say the last part, but she could have said the first part. You know,
no, she couldn't. She could have, but it may have not. It may have not shown well on TV. So,
and that's it. And I think because they had them sitting down,
mhm.
it makes it so that you can't have the type of debate that they used to have with Benson, Lloyd
Mhm.
Benson, and
Quayle.
Dan Quayle, right?
Right.
And stuff like that, where you can actually get into it, just like if you're standing up doing the presidential side of things.
Right.
So when I talked about this platinum plan of Trump and then the lift every voice with Biden,
Mhm.
I looked over the platinum plan and I got it here, and it's basically platitudes. I mean, talking about, oh, we're going to make sure that we have security, we have opportunity, we have prosperity, we have fairness. And I looked at that thing and I'm like, okay, so they have opportunity zones under fairness.
Mhm.
Right, as demonstrated.
You're gonna raise that red flag in front of me, aren't you? You can't.
Okay.
You're gonna raise it. Go ahead, antagonize me. Go ahead.
But the fact that this thing is out there,
yeah,
and clearly, like, I mean, I'll petition some of my listeners. If you let me put the call number out again, 516-590-0143, 516-590-0143. Or you can go onto our chat on Facebook and then on YouTube and give us a comment. But has anyone heard of the Platinum Plan? There's a black out there. Have they even heard of it? And it's like, okay, well, what is it supposed to do? Where is it? What's supposed to happen?
Trump's a used car salesman, right? I mean,
exactly.
So
everything in here is the same thing was in Biden's plan, but at least Biden put the meat on the bone,
right.
at least some skin, right?
Right.
This dude has nothing in here, so he wants to keep our community safe, but yet with the crime and everything that's going on there, you're not doing anything. Yeah. You're not offering to do anything. What you're doing is trying to intimidate and harass the mayors and say, we're coming there, we'll do this, we're going to do this. But yet you're not offering the money for them to be able to do what they need to do. You're not giving them money. You're talking about cutting their budgets. You're talking about cutting them because they're democratically run states. So you're going to cut their budgets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, one of the things that's frustrating about the whole process, but Trump particularly, is that, we know he doesn't care, right? So he'll say whatever. That's the thing that, you really, if you take him seriously, you'll drive yourself crazy because there's nothing serious. He is playing to the TV. He's playing to the cameras. He doesn't mean anything. I mean, he doesn't really, he's not sincere about anything. He doesn't,
But that's the problem, is that he's not that. And you have so many people, especially these black men, following this fool. You got, what's his name? Steve Mnuchin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this really pissed me off last night. And it was like 2:00 in the morning. I'm sending out tweets at 2:00 in the morning. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not Donald Trump. I don't send tweets at 2:00 in the morning. But the mess, I wanted to say something else. It pissed me off so bad. We've had half of small black businesses close and close permanently. Mm-hmm. All right. And unfortunately, you've had half of our black businesses close.
Yep.
They're sitting on $130 billion of PPP that they haven't distributed.
Yep.
And they want to use that to renegotiate. They want Congress to let them use that to negotiate for the new bill that they want to put out there. But they haven't used this for small business. This was $130 billion for small businesses that they haven't paid out to the small businesses to save the small businesses. If that right there doesn't let you know, like you said, that he doesn't give a damn about anybody, I don't know what does.
Well, and I said, I wrote this when they first started talking about the PPP back in, I guess it was April or whatever, before they passed the bill. I wrote a letter to Congress and I said, using the SBA and the banks to save small businesses is an oxymoron, right? I mean, first of all, the SBA is like the most racist institution in the government, except for maybe the Department of Ag. And then the banks are obviously racist. So it made no sense if you were going to save black businesses, you would never run that money through those organizations, right?
Right.
The fact it was done doing it the way they did, it was almost guaranteed not to help black businesses, because you couldn't get a loan. They only gave 1% of the loans to black people before the crisis. So even if they tripled the number of loans, it was only going to go to 3%. So that was just no way that was ever going to be a useful deal. And the fact that they've managed, SBA has so many hurdles you have to jump through to get money that they have 130 billion left over. I actually would expect them to have more money than that left over. That means they give a lot of money to people who weren't small businesses, because there's no way most small businesses they don't have W-2 employees. They have contractors, etc., or they're self-employed or whatever. And so they don't qualify for SBA, that kind of program. It was meant for people who have employees, and most businesses these days don't have employees. So I'm not surprised. They needed a whole different structure. Like anyone who had a EIN number should have just gotten a straight infusion of cash, regardless of the kinds of workers you had. But they didn't do it that way because they didn't want to move the money out.
Right. I mean, they took it through the banks and then told you got to apply for it and put this through. Okay, I'm sorry. You told me that you're quote unquote bailing me out, so to speak.
Yeah.
You tell me I got to apply for the bailout?
Yeah.
And then I have to apply online
to
the banks.
Yeah.
And when I applied online through the banks, then you now let me be able to say that I'm going to get it or not get it. I mean, what?
And the rules were incredibly complicated. I mean, the rules didn't apply to most businesses, not the way businesses run these days. I mean, everyone's an independent contractor, so it just made no sense.
No sense. But then they had to go back and do another PPP just for small black businesses.
Yeah,
which was crazy because you didn't think you should have included them in the first one.
Well, the rules were set. They had I guess they weren't paying attention to that. The SBA, that whole money system is a good old boy network, right?
It really is.
SBA is run by regional guys, and those guys are yokels,
Completely. And they've been there for decades.
Yeah.
20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
The majority of them are old white.
Yep.
And the majority of them is relational. My boy over here, him over here, him over there. I don't know you. I ain't never seen you before.
Yep.
You black. I don't care what kind of business you got. Right? And if someone can vouch for you, I'm not giving you a dime.
Yeah.
Right. They become, the CEO of everything, and they're not going to give it up.
Yeah.
They're not going to give it up. I mean, look at this in terms of where we go in this election coming up in 21 days.
Yes.
Put on your political hat. Go back to the Capitol Hill. You're the chief of staff again, and look and see exactly how the insurgence of black voters moves in the polls, because we're not typically polled.
Right.
We don't get polled. So where do we stand? Can we become, quote unquote, that silent majority that they're talking about, although they're talking about it from the white side of town?
Mm-hmm.
Can we become that silent majority that didn't vote in 2016 that can now come out and really, like I say, as Ali said, shock the world? Can we do that? And if so, where do you think it's going to come from?
When you say where, what do you mean? When you say where, what do you mean where?
States, like what states, and where is it going to come
from? I think there are a lot of, like Wisconsin. I think there's, because we're talking about percentages, right? We're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6% swings in turnout that can pick up the 88,000 votes in wherever the Trump won by in Wisconsin or whatever. And I think you can definitely move that. I think in North Carolina is a place where that can make a difference. I think you maximize your voter turnout in South Carolina. Someone like Jamie Harrison could win if he can get 35% of white votes, and black people turn out heavily. He could win that Senate seat down there. I think down ballot, which is what I'm really focused on for this election, all the sheriffs, all of the city council, there's a guy I know out of Louisville just won the city council seat down in Louisville, not that a long time incumbent, a young African-American man who's a ADOS member, a reparations guy. And we could start winning those kinds of races. And in Texas, I think the last election in both Harris County, I think, and in Dallas County, all the local judges are now Black.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we can have huge impact. They're 5 seats away in Texas, I think, from taking over the state legislature. I think African American votes can have a huge impact there.
That'd be huge.
It would be very huge.
If we can get the state legislature, if Democrats can get the state legislature in Texas, that will be huge, because come redistricting,
yes,
they can write them suckers. Oh, I want to say so many different words right now. They can write them suckers off so bad. They can write them off so bad.
Well, my son's not watching, so you can. So this is not a family-friendly show. So you.
Oh man. But yes, it's like the idea of Texas being, was it 26 38 electoral votes, but the congressional seats, I mean, oh my God,
I was there when Tom DeLay redistricted all the Democrats out in the 2004 2005
and they better be prepared, because the Republicans are going to challenge everything and go to the courts, which now, because they have the dang on courts, those courts will then fight and say, oh yeah, but because the Supreme Court ruling saying, oh no, you can go ahead and politically gerrymander. You can go ahead and do it. I'm praying to God, North Carolina, Texas, places like that, Wisconsin, that we can't get Wisconsin, but other places that you can actually get those states and gerrymander the hell out of those states, so that we can just pack it for the next 10 years. Because if we're able to do that, Kevin, think about the wave of voters that are coming in, the young people who are coming in, who are coming in progressive. That will then continue and allow us to actually create a wave for at least the next 20 years. Because if we can control those state houses for 10 years, that new wave coming in, right, with the old folks going out, but that new wave coming in of progressives that are really pushing the envelope right now, you can see that actually carrying possibly for another 10 to 20 years. In the same manner Republicans have been doing it for decades.
I think that's a huge thing. The other thing I would say, some people are paying attention to this. I don't know if you've noticed this, but the population density has caused a real imbalance in the Senate, right? So I think they're going to have to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate in order for, right now about 25% of the votes of Republican voters control 40 Senate seats. Right? So that means, which is about 10% of the population has a veto over any kind of legislation coming out of the Senate. So we have to look at that, because I think that trend's only going to get worse over the next, year, over the next 10 years as populations continue to shift around. So that's the other part of this. If we can win the legislators and get the House stronger, it'd be great for progressive movements. But everything gets stopped in the Senate by that, 10% of yahoos who live in all these, who make up the majority in states such as Alabama and Mississippi and South Dakota, and we can't get Democrats. And so those 40 people who probably half of them don't believe the earth is round, stop everything from happening.
All right. We got to get some folks to start moving in those areas. If you want to join the conversation and you have a comment or question, give us a call at 516-590-0143. That's 516-590-0143. If we don't get it right, Kevin, what happens?
I was just talking to someone earlier today about this. Great society's end. I mean, America's in its, as much as this is a continuation of a country, we're in our third or fourth iteration from the inception of the country through the initial constitutional drafting, and then the Civil War, and then the Civil Rights. We've gone through several iterations. I think this would be, if Trump somehow pulls this off, the country will, because he's going to lose the popular vote by a large margin, right? He's going to lose the popular vote, maybe 6 or 7 million. And there are a lot of people who will be very disenchanted if that happens. And I don't know what that means. I mean, the legitimacy of the system does depend on the majority of voters seeing their will, enacted. And so I don't know. It'd be very troubling. I mean, we probably hold on, but then it depends on how creative Trump wins again. He's going to be crazier than anything, and his supporters are going to be crazier than ever.
And that's where I am, because see, if by chance Democrats do not win that Senate,
Mm.
and if by chance he wins again,
Mm.
and with the idea of like what they tried to do in Philly.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the state legislature in Philly trying to create what's it called? A commission. They're trying to create a commission to oversee the election and actually be able to subpoena the ballots and subpoena the postal workers and people like that. Actually, while they're counting the votes and while they're doing everything, they're trying to do that. But they were able to, the Democrats there, Kenyatta, State Representative Kenyatta was able to force and call them out and really push hard to really embarrass them. They were able to stop it. But those state legislatures, Wisconsin and other places like that, can literally throw out the will of the people and decide they're going to put in their own electorates to then say, no, the will of the people wasn't this. We believe it was this because there was voter fraud. And so therefore, and in Wisconsin, you got a Republican Supreme Court. So they'll say, okay, well, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to push this away and literally try to change it. And like I said in my opening, Bill Barr's not going to do anything about it. And we know Mitch McConnell ain't going to do nothing about it. So you'll have those 54 Republicans sitting there saying, in a lame duck session, saying, oh, well, hey, this is the will of the people. And we're going to do that. And people don't understand that's a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, electors weren't elected by popular vote. I mean, they were elected by the state legislators. So they were appointed by the state legislators. So
they're appointed. It's like that reality is what gets me. The other reality that gets me is this. There are so many parallels to Nixon. And people continue to say that, Nixon is the one that's doing everything. I mean, not Nixon doing everything, but that Trump is doing everything that Nixon did and has so many similarities and overlap. Nixon got reelected.
He did. It
wasn't until that second term did he get impeached. That's my fear.
Right.
He'll actually get reelected. Democrats will have the Senate, and then he'll get impeached. But then we got to deal with Spanky. Spanky. We got to deal with his ass. And we
wouldn't have enough votes in the Senate to impeach him. Is it a simple majority in the Senate to impeach, or is it 60%? I think it's 60. I think it's so I don't think we have enough votes in the Senate to impeach him.
I thought. Let me see. Is it 60? Because Democrats had what? Democrats had 49. They only needed 3. See, they only needed 3 votes. Remember?
So you only need 51 votes. So you need 51 votes. So it's a simple majority in the Senate. But will we get to 51 votes? Yeah.
Because they changed the rules.
Yeah.
Or was it 2/3? Is it 2/3?
I have to look it up. I can't remember. I think it's a simple majority. I think you're right. I think it might be a simple majority.
To make it so there will be a simple majority, because that's when they were looking for Romney, Murkowski, and Collins to vote. And I believe that's what it was, and that's how they were gonna get over on get by and be able to get it. But technically, it's supposed to be 2/3. I know that's what rules, Constitution, or the rules say. I don't know if the Constitution says that, but I think the rules say that. But I remember that they wanted that 3 votes. Because
2/3 of a vote in the Senate to convict.
Right. That's what I thought. So then what were they doing? Why were we talking about just those 3 votes before? Because when Harry Reid changed the rules.
That's for judges. That's to appoint judges.
But they were still talking about that because there was no way they're going to get 2/3 in that trial. There was no way they're going to get 2/3. They were looking for. I can't remember. I can't remember. Let me go ahead and take this caller.
Go ahead.
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hi. I'm really enjoying the show and enjoying Kevin. You guys are doing some great things. This is Denise Rosemont. And what I wanted to say, what if he does win? What are we supposed to do? What are we going to do about this? We're hoping that President Trump does not get a second term, but there are some crazy people out there that will continue to support him.
Hey, did you
So
say
how
this is
how do we prepare for this, Stephen?
Barnes?
Say again?
Did you say Denise Rolock Barnes?
Rosemond, Denise Rosemond.
Denise Rosemond. Okay. Kevin, she put the question to you. How do you do it, my brother?
You know, it's one of the things I try to think about too much because all the options are bad. So I don't, you know, what do? You hold on for the next election, you hold them accountable and hope that, you know, he leaves when his time is up. We don't have to fight him to leave after 4 more years. If that's the case, I mean, you know, it opens up, it gives him 4 years is a long time for him to have to do mischief. And it's going to be more work than most of us are going to want to do. It's, you know, at some point people just get frustrated and give up if they see that level of frustration sets in.
Exactly. And that's the fear that I have, is that that's exactly what would happen, is that they will give up, they will get tired, and they'll move. Let me ask you this, Denise, are you looking at it from the standpoint of just Trump winning the White House? Or are you also looking at where the Republicans win the Senate as well? Or is it that the Democrats win the Senate and he's just in the White House?
Well, if the Democrats win the Senate, I think we'll be in a better position. But I'm looking for him to be in that position where he has so much power, and his beliefs are so asinine. He does not believe in anything. He doesn't believe in diversity. He doesn't even understand what that means. And it just upsets me that he made the statement that diversity training is teaching Black people how to hate white people. It's just like the things he says. I don't think this guy's got any. I mean, he has no concept of what that means. You know, I've been doing diversity work 20 years ago, for about the last 20 years. And he's saying that it's been making Black folks hate white people. That's not what it does. He doesn't even know what it is.
So let me ask you something, Denise. I mean, I will usually challenge my callers and have them, you know, sort of advance the conversation. So let me ask you this, because I'm concerned. Well, I'm not concerned. Let me just ask it straight up. Given that fact right there, that he is talking about eliminating diversity training, where and why are Black men
Oh, I didn't hear you. You didn't continue the conversation.
I'm pausing. I'm trying not to say the things I want to say, Denise, because you can't see me. So what is it that is attractive to Black men that is making them think that this guy is really for them or supporting them, given the fact that he's eliminating everything diverse and every, you know, in every state, every federal government office and agency? What is it that's making them say, I'm going to support this guy? Because 11% of them are saying they're going to support him.
Yes. Okay. And this is just my perspective on this.
Yeah. I'm just asking your opinion.
Issue. Right. I think it's a gender issue. I just think that the sexist issue is a little bit stronger than that. And I think that's one of the reasons maybe Hillary did not win. It was more about, okay, he's a man, so he's gonna, you know, he'll look after me better than this particular woman. That's one thing. And the other piece is that I believe they would think that he's going to help them during this economic transition, that he's better for the economy. I don't know where they're getting that from, but that's what they seem to believe. But I really think it's just sexism is real and it exists. That just shows you how maybe in the Western world, because like in Europe, you have women as leaders, and we really never have had a female leader in high leadership as other countries.
Yeah.
So you really have to think about that. What's going on with the male population? You know, it's men, some Black men. They see him, I think, with all the stuff and stereotype that he said, that may be conversations that are going on in the back rooms. And so they feel like, oh, he's okay. That's what men do. That's what men say. And again, it's only my opinion.
Boys will be boys, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, part of that.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the call.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
And keep it up, both. Stephen.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Right.
Okay.
So, man, how do we get beyond this? Let
First,
me
we got to vote. I mean, one step at a time. First, everyone's got to vote between now and November 3rd. I think, we can't, as many people, if you've already voted, find someone else to take to the polls. If you know someone who hadn't voted, like I couldn't believe Shaquille O'Neal said he never voted. Did you see that? That Shaquille said he
saw that.
Yeah, in all these years, he's never voted.
I saw two things. I saw one that he was, I guess, supporting Donald Trump.
Oh, I didn't see that part. Okay.
I saw that. So they, when I'm doing my shows or I'm doing the magazine, these little things pop up on the news site. Mm-hmm. And it's like, look at all the black men supporting, rich black men, they're supporting Donald Trump. So you had Floyd Mayweather, you had Shaquille O'Neal, you had Kanye, you had somebody else, other people, and all of them, like Denise said, they were all saying, well, he's a businessman. Look at, he's doing business. And I'm asking myself, okay, how good of a businessman is he if he's had to file bankruptcy 6 times?
Yeah.
In a theoretical sense of, as a black man and a black businessman, you would never be able to file bankruptcy 6 times and still allow or have to make money.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that. So I can understand how you can probably admire him as a businessman in a sense. Oh man, he filed bankruptcy 6 times and the bank still lent him money because he understood he had to get the money loaned to him to be able to do that. But he was in real estate. Mm-hmm. So they were always looking at the fact that he would always be able to make money in that sense, even though he inherited $150 million from his dad.
Right.
Shaquille and all those other folks ain't gonna be able to do that. Even Shaquille being Shaquille or Floyd being Floyd.
Yeah.
Say, you filing bankruptcy, I'm gonna come back and lend you some more money.
Well, Donald Trump does have one advantage with black people. From a sociological standpoint, I think, his name has been circulating for 40 years in the black community. Prince wrote a song about Donald Trump. I didn't even realize that. And so in rappers, every other rapper raps about it. So I think that does give him something of that 11% can cling to the fact that they've heard his name and they're comfortable with him in a way that.
So that was during a time when he was trying to get into and infiltrate into that side of the area because he saw the opportunity.
Right.
He saw the opportunity to get in there.
Yeah, and Mike Tyson and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. And that's the other thing about it too, is that Donald Trump was a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. For a long time. Yeah.
So here's the irony that I have with Republicans. Mm-hmm. That they hate Democrats so bad, but they've accepted one and he has now turned their asses out. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting there at the porcelain bomb, sitting there saying, give me more, give me more.
Well, he took over their party. I mean, he figured out what Lee Atwater was saying. Was saying. Yeah. They didn't give it to him. He figured out that Lee Atwater was right. If he could get 40% of their voters just by being racist, and that was gonna.
Yeah. Exactly. That's all he needed to do.
Yeah.
That's literally all he needed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me. I got one more caller, and then I gotta hit you up.
All right.
Hey, caller, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, what's your question?
You made a statement about blacks filing bankruptcy. I know 2 black men, one Sterling Moody, and the other is the Robinson. I'm not too sure on them if it's been 7 or more, but I know Sterling has filed bankruptcy at least 8 times and he have some problems, but he does get financing for X adventure, basically, because he's so knowledgeable in what it is he's doing. I just want to put that out there.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we got one. We got 1 or 2 who's been able to do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I said the 2 that I said. So Sterling is 1. Okay. We got that. So that was good. Yeah. We learned something new today. Sterling was able to file bankruptcy and still get some financing. All right.
Yeah.
Kevin, go file bankruptcy tomorrow and go back to the bank and get some financing.
I haven't filed bankruptcy, still can't get finance from the bank. So I don't need to file bankruptcy to figure out how not to get money from the bank.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the caller letting us know that, right?
I don't need to go to all that trouble. I can't get money now. It don't matter.
I'm gonna take this quick break, and I'll come back. I'm gonna ask you what's at stake, Kevin. What's at stake? Brian, go ahead and give us a commercial. Because clearly we need to be like Sterling and everybody else, and be able to file. And
yeah, I gotta figure out we gotta figure out what he, who co-signed the loan for him to get the bank loans. I mean, I don't know what the facts are behind that.
Sometimes I think, and do it while I'm talking, Brian. Go ahead. You can do was it chapter 7?
Yeah.
And I think 7 allows you to keep some of your assets, and then you can move on. Chapter 13 is straight
liquidation. Yeah.
Liquidation. And then chapter 11. But see, also he was doing and because Trump was filing business bankruptcy and then changing the name and going to another one, that's why he's got 500 of them out there, but still only paying $750 in taxes.
Yeah.
So how is it that you do that and still only pay $750 in taxes and get away with it? And these people are saying, "Oh, that's being smart." No, that's cheating. There's some, there's some stuff going on in there. Otherwise, the AG wouldn't be trying to find it.
No one knows. I mean, I don't know for sure, so you can't. It's not factual, but there's clearly the things that he's getting away with. Most other people couldn't get away with. I mean, the sources of his money. Who's that guy who just paid for all of the kids to get their college student loans paid off in Georgia? He's under investigation for tax stuff. I mean, the billionaire, the African American billionaire. Yeah, and really? So he's under investigation. So I mean, he hasn't been doing. He hasn't been on near as long as Trump and guys. So most black guys couldn't get away with half that crap.
Right, and unfortunately, if he does do it, it's going to be like they're going to catch him, and they're going to find him, or they try to disrupt his whole thing. Look for put our ad up, Brian, the street ad. I mean, he's going to come out with the fact that he was putting up money and paying off, student loan and student debt, and then they're going to come back and say, "Oh, you've done something wrong, and you've done this and you've done that." Yeah. I was just looking today where he has a bed and breakfast in, I think it's Miami. He owns a bed and breakfast in Miami, a big, nice palatial place. I'm gonna go check out a few blocks from South Beach. Let me go ahead and check this out. Hi, nice little. It's a hotel, not bed and breakfast. It's a hotel, a resort right there in Miami that we're looking at. Let me go ahead and while Brian's trying to get the ad together, you have what's going on in Alabama with the senator there, Doug Jones. Is he going to be able to, or black folks in Alabama really going to be able to help sustain him, the black women, the way they did the first time?
That was lightning in a bottle for him. The Roy Moore had become such an embarrassment to the state. People I talked to who live in Alabama said Roy Moore had just become such an embarrassment that there were enough white people who just didn't want him to be the senator, and that was able to he was able to get them. I don't know that Doug Jones has done enough to keep those people with him this time, given who he's running against. So I don't think there's enough black voters there to hold. I think Doug, he will have to do some magic to win that seat, to hold on to that seat. That was truly, Roy Moore was just an embarrassment in the leadership of the state. Just didn't want him.
Okay, go ahead, Brian. Play the ad.
Yes, this might be any city going about its daily business, but there is something different about it now, because one woman said, "I have had enough."
What do you see when you walk outside? Crime and poverty? Or a sanctuary? What's your issue with the community? Poor education? Lack of resources? Unemployment? Do you see growth? Do you want it? Don't just talk about change. Be the change. Use the power given to you by those who never got to experience it? Or was all this
How long will it take? We're willing to be beaten for democracy.
for nothing?
That's our second ad there, and we're working on a third ad, and that one will be coming out hopefully in the next week or so that we can put out there as well. And
Are they all running online, or are they running in particular markets?
straight online, we're pushing them online and all the social media platforms and putting them out there so that we can get them across. And I'm going to try to we're trying to finish up our "What the hell do you have to lose" ad by this week, and hopefully we can get that out by the end of the week as well. Put that out there, and that's where we are right now. Brian, go ahead. Also put up the Black Reset. I want everyone who's watching and listening, if you are listening, go to. I want you to text TBR 20. If you're listening to us on the radio, on the internet radio side of things, you can't see the screen that we're looking at right now. I want you to text TBR 20 space your first name space your last name and then space your email address to 59769. That's TBR the Black Reset 20. So TBR 20 space your first name space last name and then space email to 59769. The Black Reset is going to be it's our nonprofit arm of being able to set up and go out and talk and advocate, get policy, and create ads and different things to really educate and promote and get our community understanding and empowered. Because even though this election is critical, if we win or lose, meaning Black people win or lose, we still need to be able to move forward come 2022, 2024, and so on, where we can really engage. We're about to be the majority of this majority population in this nation. And if we don't play our cards right, we're still going to be a minority economically, socially, and politically. Like Kevin said, coming on the show, and like I've said, and I broadcast on the show every single week, I keep saying to us, we have to get engaged. It is time for a Black Reset. We have always voted, but we've never lobbied, advocated. We've never discussed public policy. We've never collectively joined hands together and bought property, bought real estate. I think the last town hall we did, the last economic town hall we did, I talked about the families in Georgia, the 19 families that bought 100 acres. And now they have their own city, their own town, and they're going to incorporate it as such. That's what we have to do. That's where we have to be, and that's what has to happen with us. And I mean, that's what the Black Reset is going to be doing, and that's what we're focused on, and that's what we're looking to do. And we're going to team up with organizations with like Kevin, Financial Services Coalition, with other organizations, other nonprofits, for-profits, because collectively we have to get in the game. We have to get in the game. Now, I said the whole thing with Trump and filing bankruptcy and then only paying $750 and all that kind of stuff. I don't like it from the standpoint because we know he's a crook and he's done some crooked stuff. But from a business side of things, as a businessman, I try to write off stuff too. I mean, you write off what you can as long as it's legal. You write it off because this show and everything we're doing. We need to raise money. We got to spend money. And then, for those ads to be produced and things like that, so we can get the word out. And then we can write that off. But we need to make sure that we're doing this together. Not, Robert Smith can do it. A Dr. Dre can do it. A Oprah Winfrey can do it. A Bob Johnson can do it because they're billionaires, millionaires, and they can do it. But if you're not in that bracket, we have to do it collectively. We need to buy up Southeast Washington, D.C. We need to buy up South side of Chicago. We need to buy up the west side of Philly. We need to buy up the south side of L.A. We need to buy up those areas in our communities. We need to gentrify our own community. We don't need somebody else coming in and gentrifying it for us. And so the Black Reset, that's what we're looking to do. So text TBR, first name, last name, email to 59769. Join us, support us, help us, and let's get something out there. If you're in the space, you're in areas where we can go out there and do things, whatever space you're in, if you want to join us, all right? Support us, support us. Make sure you push out our ads there. Go to YouTube and pull them off of our Black Politics Today channel there and push it out there, and let's get started. Check us out on Instagram as well as Twitter and Facebook, and those ads will be posted up there as well if they're not already, and we'll move that forward as well. So Kevin, as we get ready to close out and get out of here, what's at stake for us, man? What's at stake for us socially, economically, and politically?
The future. I mean, we are, the study that came out, the fact pattern says that by 2052, Black people will have zero wealth, or Black wealth will be zero by 2052. Or there's another one that's, even, it's troubling for a different reason, but that the population shifts are putting us in a situation where, 50% of us are going to live in 8 states, meaning our political power is going to get diluted because we're going to be concentrated in a few states. So the other 49% of the population will control the other 80 Senate seats. That's, we're talking about an apartheid system that will hinder us from ever making any progress. We need to have the Voting Rights Act needs to be renewed. We need an affirmative action plan that includes quotas. We need to bring back quotas, because African Americans are left out of so many things. Where jobs, education, we're just left out of everything. Police brutality. I mean, none of these things happen if we live in a society where a small minority wields, inequitable power. I mean, they can't be out there. Our power can't be as outsized as it is if we're going to have any chance of being, having a quality of life, a decent quality of life. So I can't, Trump is one person. He needs to go. If he doesn't go, we may not have another election. So from that standpoint, I think he needs to go. But we need to engage in politics at a level that we're not even talking about for the most part. I mean, every election matters. Every office holder, I don't care if it's the dog catcher, the Public Utility Commission. I mean, we've got to just engage in politics the way they engage. We need to start our own militias. I mean, I don't think it makes sense that only crazy white guys in Wisconsin have guns. I mean, we've got to engage the society at every level.
It has to be like the militia in Louisiana that marched out there and they were like 100 strong, right? Yeah. And I've seen people before. And in fact, this weekend, I'm going to get my guns. I'm going to get me 2 guns, a long rifle and another pistol. And I'm telling Black folks, go get your guns, go get your pistols, learn, read, and see what you can do in your state and your jurisdiction so you don't break no laws. But make sure you get them and get your permit. If you got to conceal and carry, get your permit, get in your car, put it in your car, whatever you have to do, but get your guns.
Yeah.
Because trust me, they're going to have them and they're going to try to intimidate you. And you can't go to a gunfight without a gun. Okay.
It's hard to win one of those. Hard to win without a gun.
Not that you're going to a gunfight, but it's like anything else, right? Yeah. If you don't plan, right? What is it? If you don't plan to win, if you don't prepare to plan or plan, how does it go? If you don't
plan to win, you plan to fail or fail to plan. If you fail to plan, I can't remember that quote.
I can't remember the quote either, but you get the picture, right? Yeah. If you plan for it, right, you're gonna lose in the planning process, right? Yeah. If you come up against something and you're not prepared, you're done.
There's a reason why they're buying all these. But whether however you want to put it, there's a reason they're buying a whole bunch of guns, right? There's a reason they have unlimited amounts of guns. So
yeah, they're thinking they're arming up so they can have a race war because they really do want to continue a civil war. All these white supremacist groups want to reestablish and want to start another civil war, which I think even you said in our opening about how it's just a continuation of a civil war. Yeah. And the other thing is that they have this idea that, if a Democrat gets in office, he's going to take our guns away. And I'm always amazed, and I said we got to go, but I'm always amazed at how Republicans want to always say Democrats are going to take something or do something, but they have everybody on the courts. They fill these courts up so they can legislate from the bench. Mm-hmm. So they can change their policies and interpret it the way they want to interpret it, the way it fits their ideology, so that they can now be able to overturn Roe v. Wade, overturn all these things. All right, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Thank you. When am I listening? Right?
Okay.
See. That's why I'm glad I got people listening there so they can correct me. And that's the whole thing why I was holding my tongue, because a lot of times when I really say what I want to say, I get all these texts and tweets and everything else. You shouldn't have said that. I got one up here saying behave. I'm like, see, I want to say what I want to say. This is internet radio. I have no FCC restricting me. Okay.
Get it off your chest. They give you and Trump getting stuff off your chest at 2 a.m. There you go.
I tell you, man. Listen, Kevin, I appreciate you, man. I'm sorry we couldn't get the sheriff on. He's the sheriff, so clearly something's going on, right? and we're not able to do it. But certainly, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, blackpoliticstoday.com, Black Politics, the number 2 day for Twitter, and then on Instagram, Black Politics Today, and YouTube is Black Politics Today as well. Get our ad, please. Copy it, send it out. Again, it's going to be should be up on Instagram already. It should be out on Twitter. Certainly up on our Facebook page. Get it, copy it, send it out, and let's really push that out there so that our people understand that they got to vote. Absolutely. I care about who they vote for, but I care more the fact that they vote, and I care more the fact they engage. And as Kevin said, we have to start engaging and advocating for ourselves. Many of you who listened to me last week when I talked to the city councilman Darvin from Kentucky, Darvin Adams from Kentucky, and I asked him who's advocating for Black folks, and you saw that and you heard that long pause, and that's because he didn't know, and many of you don't know that we don't have anyone advocating for us per se, where we're actually lobbying the state house, the city council, and Congress on our behalves. There's nobody out there doing that. So I need you to understand why it's important for you to show up at city council meetings, why it's important for you to vote all the way down the ballot, why it's important for you to vote for initiatives. You read the initiatives and you vote for those initiatives in your city and local elections. It's important for you to do that. And everybody you know, from your great-grandmother, your grandmother, grandfather, grandparents, your mother, yourself, and your kids, you need to be on their ass and making sure they vote. Yep. That's the bottom line. You got to make sure they vote. Let's look at the stakes, because the stakes have never been higher. If in your lifetime, if you're 30, 40, 50 years old, the stakes have never been higher in your lifetime, because this is our moment of truth for Black America. And you better stand up, you better realize, you better understand that it's real. Mm-hmm. Let me be clear. We've got plenty of racism in America, and we're not going to be able to stop it, in my opinion. Racism is going to be here. It's not going anywhere. We can't legislate people. You can't legislate feelings. You can't legislate people to not be racist. They're going to be racist. Can't legislate that. But what you can do is that you can get out there and you can vote. And if we vote, we can begin to work with the legislatures to start changing policies that can then help us so that we can get a new wave of generation, a new segment of individuals coming into office, coming into power, coming into business, coming into organizations and companies and businesses that don't have the same mentality, didn't grow up with the same hatred and animosity towards people of color that their ancestors or their great-grandparents did, because of the children and the parenting that's going on now. If we get out there and vote, and if we take over, because when we become the majority and we're in the positions, think about that. When we're the majority and you start seeing Black folks in positions that they've never been in before, mm-hmm. What is that going to mean for us? What is that going to mean for us socially, economically, and politically? That's going to mean that we can now set the agenda. We can set the policies. We can cut the pie the way we want to cut the pie, and we can determine how much pie we get for ourselves, our community. That's what we need to do. That's why it's time for the Black Reset. That's why it's about us on November 3rd. And that's why I need you to get out there and vote. I need you to understand it. I need you to be a part of it. And I need you to conduct yourselves in a manner that you want to see in the future. So I need you to talk to somebody. I need you to tell somebody. I need you to encourage somebody. I need you to slap somebody. I don't care what you got to do to get them, but you get them and you get their asses to the polls and you make sure they vote. And I would say vote as many times as you can, but clearly we can't do that like Donald Trump told those people in North Carolina. But make sure they do vote, and make sure their kids vote, and make sure their grandparents vote. And even those who say it's not going to matter, say, well, vote anyway. Since it doesn't matter, here's what I want you to do. And you tell them who to vote for, and you tell them what initiatives to vote for. Since it doesn't matter, do it for me. Because it matters to me. Do it for me. So that on November 3rd, if we participate, if we put our collective minds and heads together, we vote, we go out there, we can see a victory that will change everything in perspectives of how we move forward. It's still going to be a fight. Don't think just because you did it, like we did in 2008, and we sat on our asses in 2010, that it's going to be okay. No. You do it now, you do it at your local levels, and you do like Kevin talked about. You make sure that you get the judges in your local area to vote. So that Ray and Pookie, when they go to jail, they got somebody to look like them. They may still go to jail because they did the crime, but maybe they get a little leniency because the person on the bench actually looks like them. Maybe they'll get an alternative program because the person on the bench looks like them. Maybe. There's no guarantees. But you know what? Nothing in life is. But unless you don't participate in it, you'll never know. So like my friend told me, if you don't, what does it say? If you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So let's get out there and plan our vote. Like Michelle Obama said, get your walking shoes, get your chair, your easy chair. Get your food, your water, a little nip or whatever you need. Get your coat, get your umbrella, take it, make sure it's in the car, just in case, and get out there and vote. Because, baby, it's time for the Black Reset. I want to thank Kevin. I want to thank my guest, Kevin Kimball. I want to thank our callers. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And like I said, our political segment on August 26th, October 26th, will be our final town hall where we talk about, it would be literally a week away from Election Day, a week and a day from Election Day. And we'll have our guests available for that one as well. And I'm sure by that time, we're going to have a whole lot more to talk about and be ready for what's going to happen on November 3rd. Kevin, thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And go to Black Politics Today and check out his article on blackpoliticstoday.com about socialism. I think you find it very interesting. For those of you who don't believe in socialism, don't know what socialism is, but go check out that article. I think you'll find it real good, real good. All right, my man.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care.
Cool. All right.
All right. Until next week. Until we meet again. Until I have something else to say. Until we decide that it's time to do something new. Thank you. Social, economic, or political. It's Black Politics Today.
Thank you for listening to Black Politics Today on Eye for What's at Stake in Global Politics with your host, Kelly Michael Williams. Join us live each Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Until next time, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and download us on iTunes at Black Politics Today.